Welcome to Growing in Grace, where we are talking today with a special guest, Andrea.
Yes, sir.
Stafford. I'm used to the Murphy last name, but you're Stafford now.
Stafford, yes, sir.
And we appreciate you, and I've had an opportunity to see you grow and mature.
Yes, sir.
And I know that God has helped you in your process.
Yes, sir.
You've had some struggles, and which everybody has struggles. As if it's not one thing, it's something else.
Right.
And Job was a man of suffering, and Job stated that a man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. And today we want to talk about how troubles or struggles of even physical illnesses can help you in your walk with God, and how your physical illnesses and how things that may attack your body can help you to rely more on God and help you in your walk with God.
Right.
And you have a story to tell.
I do.
You have a story to tell.
Yes,
You've
I
been on a journey for quite some time,
Yes, sir,
haven't you?
I am. Yes, sir.
And God has really blessed you and graced you in your life. So, Andrea,
Yes.
tell us your story.
Where do you want me to start? I can start about how I found out that something was wrong.
Yes.
So I would say it started when I was around second or third grade. I was interested in the violin, and I took to it really well. I was advancing great, and I started to notice that I was having some muscle tension in my hands. And of course, it's a string instrument, so you have to use your fingertips, and it would be sore. And I told my mom, and I just thought it was something, you have to get used to, maybe conditioning, things of that nature. And she would try to, apply different ointments, and it seemed like the pain just got worse to the point where I could no longer play. That's when she decided to go to the doctor and see, what might be the situation. And the doctors were a little confused. They didn't know exactly what was going on. And at that time, I started to show more symptoms, such as when I got cold, my fingers would become discolored, purple, and kind of white at the fingertips. So I was going from different specialists to see exactly what could be going on to cause, these symptoms. And long story short, I was finally diagnosed with scleroderma, which simply means sclero is hard, and then derma means skin. So that's when your body produces too much collagen, and it causes the hardening of the skin, and of course, and it can affect the internal organs.
So you got the diagnosis, and so the diagnosis began to tell you, okay, this is what's wrong.
Right.
And after the diagnosis, you got to say, okay, now how do I deal with it?
Right.
And so how did you begin to deal with it?
So at the time, this was in the 90s, so this is a rare condition. It's an autoimmune condition. So it wasn't really known, I would say, even in Georgia.
So it's kind of rare.
It's very rare.
I see.
Yes, and it's even more rare to find that in children. So for me to be so young, most of the doctors and the specialists that I went to, they were used to trying to treat elderly people or older people. So I was one of the first patients that they recognized this is a very young person, and they had to figure out, how do we give her medication? How do we treat her? Because the medication that the steroids and things of that nature they would give to patients.
About how old were you?
I was like 8, 9 years old.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they couldn't really figure out what kind of doses do we give her? What kind of treatment plan do we put her on? And it wasn't a lot of information out there that they knew exactly what to do. So I received different types of medication to try to ease some of the symptoms, but the doses were so strong, it actually made it worse. And the condition began to progress so vastly that I think I may have been in 5th grade by this time, maybe 10 years old. And I don't remember the conversation exactly word by word, but the doctor came in with my mom, and his whole demeanor was just really sad. And he told my mom in so many words, she has maybe 5 years to live. And I don't see any other way around it. At this point, they had given me so many different medications that they knew of, and it was still progressing. I was always tired. Even balling my fist, I couldn't do it because of the hardening of the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting down with the kids in PE, they call it crisscross applesauce, where you sit Indian style.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things I couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And they had told my mom that was the final prognosis was 5 years max.
Mm.
And that would be it.
5 years. Is that and so that was from the skin?
Yes, sir.
The hardening of the skin.
Yes, sir.
And is there another diagnosis that you got later?
Yes.
Yeah.
So later, and I would say maybe 18, 19, I haven't had the best vision, but my vision got worse. So much so to the point where I seen an eye doctor, and he was like, I've been practicing 30 years. I've never seen a case like this. And my vision was so distorted. I was finally diagnosed with keratoconus, which means that your cornea, basically the vision is distorted. The eye is in perfect condition. And I guess I would describe it as a car. You have a perfectly good working car, transmission, engine, everything is perfect. But if you can't see out that windshield, the car, you can't really do much with the car. And that the windshield would be the cornea of my eye.
I see.
So I couldn't see out of the cornea. And it became so distorted. Typically, you can wear a contact that will correct the vision. But my situation, again, was so advanced that they would have to do corrective surgery. And my mom, talking to my mom at that time, the surgery would cost up to about $1 million just for a cornea transplant at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's sobering.
Very much so.
Very sobering. So, and that was for both eyes.
Just the one. Though it was, they're both very distorted, but there was one that was just significantly advanced.
I see.
And actually, the eye is one of the strongest muscles. So, jumping ahead, but once they were able to correct the vision and complete that transplant, the other eye basically became almost 20/20 vision, because it basically was like, okay, it's healed. And so, of course, if I close my right eye, I can't see out of my left eye very well. But with them both open and I wear a contact lens, it's a 20/20 vision now.
Wow. So you see me well.
I see you very well.
So you were able to overcome that one.
Yes, sir.
Now back to the
Scleroderma.
Scleroderma.
Yes, sir.
Did I say that right?
Scleroderma.
Scleroderma.
Yes, sir.
Scleroderma.
Derma.
Scleroderma.
Yes, sir.
Okay, scleroderma. Now with that, the doctor was saying 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And you were 10 at the time?
I was about 10, yes, sir.
About 10. So you weren't supposed to be beyond 15.
No, sir.
And today you don't have to tell us.
Yes, sir. I forget sometimes.
Say again?
I forget sometimes.
Well, here's the reality, is you are blessed.
Yes, sir.
So anything past 15 is blessed
yes,
for you.
Sir.
By some means, you were able to overcome that prognosis.
Yes, sir.
The doctor said 5 years. And somehow or another, he was wrong, and we thank God he was wrong.
Absolutely.
So how did you overcome, and what led to the years beyond 5? 5 years. What led to past 15? How did you do this? What happened?
I remember at the time of the prognosis, I was just really tired, emotionally, physically, in every aspect you could think of. I just remember just being drained. And my mom came to me and she said, what would you like to do? Would you like to continue medication? Would you like continue to try to see if we can relieve any type of symptoms possible? What would you like to do? And I just told her I was tired. I didn't want to take the medication anymore. And she said, well, understanding we don't know what the outcome would be. If you decide that you want to let the medication go and you want to just, we try to find something else to try to relieve the symptoms, or at this time we just enjoy the time that God gives you. And that's what I wanted to do. And my mom, it seemed like she had a different type of determination. And I look back and I realized how much that I relied on her prayers and her strength. And even my dad was trying, his best to kind of relieve me of any type of stress that I was feeling. And my mom just had this different type of determination. And now that I understand that it was faith, and she was just like, I just believe that there's something that we can do. And ultimately, she was led to different people that was able to help her. And ultimately, I changed my diet. I began to drink more water, just the things that I was eating, consuming, I changed all of that. And there was a night and day difference just that fast. And of course, fast forwarding now that there's more research, a lot of the foods and things that you can intake, it affects it because the inflammation can be increased and things of that nature.
I see.
So just getting more exercise and the different things that I was consuming, I believe that God blessed my mother and her vision to think that there was something better. And for her to apply her faith, I feel like I'm one of the testimonies of her prayers.
So, wow. So the food. So you figured out that the food that you was eating was hurting you.
Yes.
And it came about, the knowledge came because your mother kept digging.
She did.
And she kept searching.
She did.
And she's got to somebody to let her know that sometimes autoimmune diseases are affected by the food that you eat.
Absolutely.
And inflammation that arises in your body.
Correct.
And if you can calm that down, then everything can be more normalized.
Right.
And so it wasn't medicine.
No.
It was food.
It was food.
So that's what helped you to overcome.
It did.
Food and faith.
Yes.
Faith and food.
Right.
How about that?
Right.
It's funny how faith works.
Yes.
In that faith without works is dead. And somehow or another, you said your mother had faith, but she kept searching for the thing to do.
Right.
She believed you was going to live, but she knew that something had to be done.
Exactly.
And who would have thought that it was food?
Food. Yes.
It was food. And with some people, even today, the food that we eat, can be helpful or hurtful.
Correct. Exactly.
And so, let's go back to the
Keratoconus.
One more time. You teaching us something today? Keratoconus?
Yes, sir.
I said it right?
Yes, sir.
Keratoconus. Oh, wow, I can learn.
Yes, you can.
So with the keratoconus, how did you overcome that? Because you said you had the surgery.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing about that is, okay, they got a plan, but it's $1 million plan.
Yes.
How did you overcome that?
So like I said, at this time I was older. And it was a lot of other things outside of what I was dealing with that was going on. And so I feel like at that time, that was a position that I needed to be in, where I needed to rely on God for myself. And I had been, without realizing it, I had been leaning on my mom's faith. And now it's time for me to recognize and to connect with God for myself.
Yes.
So with the keratoconus, before I was diagnosed, I couldn't really work because my vision was so distorted. I remember being in college and the teacher would say, turn to page so-and-so, and I couldn't see what it was. And I remember a student saw me struggling, and of course, thankfully, they didn't make a scene. They just helped me find the page, and I had to pretend like I could see what was going on. So I eventually enrolled to get assistance for, the fact that I was having issues with my vision. And there were different programs that they had to help me, to take the class and things of that nature. So much so that when it was time for my finals, they was able to magnify the wording, and I was able to kind of read what I needed, and I was able to pass it. So that was something that God was showing me, that just do what you know. Do what you know, do the best that you can.
You kept going.
I kept going. And sometimes I was like, looking back, it's like, I don't even know how, but that had to be God showing me, I got you.
A lot of people would have given up. They would have given up. And that's why you're so special. And in that you didn't.
Yes, sir.
You didn't. Well, I say that you're so special, and you are. But I will say for everybody that might be listening that the thing that you were able to rely on is God.
Yes.
And when you can rely on God, that'll make anybody special.
That's true.
Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree.
You know, because God is the one. In fact, if it wasn't for God, we would still just be dust and ashes.
Yes, sir.
But the reason why we are more than that is because of God.
Right.
It's because of Him.
Right.
And so how did all of these that you had to go through, how did it make your faith in God stronger? Or what, can you tell us a little bit let us look behind the curtain and see how, you know, God began to work in your life to develop your faith?
So some of the situations that I was going through, besides illness, I feel like my mental illness was also struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you said that, you know, I kept going, I recognized that it was God, because some of that stuff I was dealing with outside of God, I would not be able to handle.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of the turning points. I was coming to Lucas Temple, and at that time, my mental illness was, I would come to church and I didn't really remember what happened. I was just almost felt like I was in a different world. I was just, you know, struggling to focus. One of the mothers, Mother Middlebrook, she would actually, I think she recognized that, and she would just say, come sit by me. You know, when you're struggling, just sit by me. And she would just hold my hand. We never talked about anything. And that actually...
So she never knew what you was going through.
We never talked about it. But she would just say, sit by me and hold my hand. And that actually was what I needed. And that actually gave me clarity to be able to focus. And it relieved some of that tension that I was feeling. So one, I believe, was a Sunday school, and it was Minister Pullen. And I believe his topic was prayer. I don't remember everything that he said, but I remember specifically he was saying that what you're asking God to do, go to Him earnestly and ask that, Lord, if it's your will, I ask that it be done. And if it's not your will, I ask that, you know, I be okay with that. And that was something I actually went home and I was sincere in my prayer. And I literally said, Lord, you know, I would like to see, I would like for this to happen. I would like for my vision to be restored. I would like to be whole. I ask that, you know, if that's your will, please let it be done. And if it's not, I'm genuinely asking that you help me to be okay. Yeah. And talking to my mom about it, I think I went to the doctor shortly thereafter. And the doctor, the same specialist that was very hesitant about the procedure, was just like, let's do it. And they literally signed me up to get the surgery basically very soon after that. The doctor that completed the surgery, they said even years later, they would have different residents and things come study my eye. Come look in. They would all gather into a room to look at my eye. And it was a perfect graft, is what they call it. That means that the transplant was seamless. And that is very rare.
Right.
And even years later, there was no sign. Of course, because it's a transplant, your body can reject it.
Yes.
There was no signs of rejection. Everything was, and they actually said, this is a perfect graft.
Who does perfect stuff?
God.
God.
God does.
As for God, His way is perfect.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, folks don't do perfect stuff like that. And that's all. What it is. In fact, it sounds like to me the doctors have been amazed.
Yes.
And because God has done something.
Yes, sir.
He used their hands and the things that He's allowed them to know to heal you. And that's God.
Absolutely.
And we have to acknowledge that.
Yes.
You have to acknowledge that you had the price barrier. Then you had the skill barrier. Right. There a level of being able to do it without the side effects and the negative consequences.
Right.
And how many years ago has that been?
This was back in 2009, I believe.
2009. Oh, about 12, 13 years?
Yes, sir.
And where are the negative side effects?
There are none.
There are none.
There are none.
13 years later.
13 years. And I went to, for Scleroderma, I wanted to play tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, you have to get a physical. So
Mm-hmm.
I was 16 and I went to the physician's office, the same rheumatologist's office where the doctor gave me that prognosis. And there was another rheumatologist there.
Mm-hmm.
And she took blood work. And she came back and she just seemed so confused. And she was going through my paperwork and she just said, I don't understand what's going on, because initially when I was younger, around 9 or 10, when they were trying to find the diagnosis, they would test you for the disease. And there was a chart to say, how far advanced that disease was. I had surpassed the chart, meaning that's why
unmeasurable.
Unmeasurable. And so when she came back from my lab work,
mm-hmm.
she just said, I see in your paperwork that you've been diagnosed. I see in the chart that, like you said, it's immeasurable. I see that, but I cannot find the disease
in you.
In me. She said, I see the symptoms because, of course, sometimes I get, discolored if I'm anxious or something like that. My fingertips might turn purple. And sometimes there'll be spots
mm-hmm.
to show that the condition is active. But there was nothing.
In your blood work?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that amazing? Well, God is amazing.
God is amazing.
God is amazing.
Yes,
and
sir.
He's a deliverer.
Yes.
And so you, my friend, should have an amazing faith.
Yes, sir.
So can you speak more about your life with God and
sure.
how all these things really have increased your relationship with God? And,
yes.
Even beyond faith, your love, and like one scripture says, we love Him because He first loved us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what does that do for your love meter for God? How would you describe it?
I don't even know if I can describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that as a child, when I was younger, I felt like I was always obedient. I always, did what I was supposed to do because I had a fear of,
mm-hmm.
I don't want to go to hell. That's, we're
mm-hmm.
taught that. But through these different trials that I was going through, I started to understand His love for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed the whole trajectory of my journey.
Yeah.
So much so that what I'm dealing with now, there's another situation that I'm going through, and
mm-hmm.
I just find myself, Lord, I'm giving this back to you,
mm-hmm.
and you show me time and time again, I have you.
I can trust you.
I can trust you
mm-hmm.
wholeheartedly,
mm-hmm.
and I just find myself giving it back to Him because He has shown me, and I believe that He will continue to show me this is what He has for me to do,
mm-hmm.
and I want to fulfill that because He has healed me time and time again. And so I want to present myself completely flawless, that if the condition comes back, whatever may happen,
mm-hmm.
I can, seek the kingdom and be ready when He comes back for me. And that's my goal.
Yeah. So now it's about love.
It's about love now.
It's about love now. It's not about the wrath and
no.
I ain't trying to go to hell. I don't want to go to hell. Now it's about I want to be with the Lord.
Absolutely.
I want to be with Jesus.
Absolutely.
And I love Him.
Yes, sir.
And I want to do things to please Him because I love Him.
Yes, sir.
Not because I don't want the wrath of God.
Right.
Which is I think that's a better relationship.
Much better. It
better
feels like a father and daughter relationship.
Yes.
Which is much better than just being fearful.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And being accepting of His will for your life.
Yes, sir.
Knowing that whatever He decides to do is going to be what's best for you.
Absolutely.
Because He is that good Father.
Yes, sir.
He's our Father.
Yes, sir.
The one in heaven.
Yes.
I noticed.
Right.
There's something I noticed about people. There's another Father.
Yes.
Well, people don't pray to Him.
No.
People don't ask Him for no help.
No.
It looks like all He do is help people get in trouble.
Right.
That other Father.
Exactly.
But we got a good Father.
Absolutely.
The one in heaven.
Right.
And we can pray to Him and He come to our rescue.
Absolutely.
And He's done it so many times before until now we know we can rely on Him. We can depend on Him.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed even as Jesus was getting ready to die for us, He prayed a prayer.
Yes.
And He prayed saying, Father, move this bitter cup. And nonetheless, not what I desire, not the will of my flesh,
right.
but the will of thy will
Yes, sir.
In other words, the will of the Spirit be done.
Right.
What's best. And what was best was the suffering. And I say that because even all of your suffering, what would your life be like without it? Here's the thing. I'm gonna put words in your mouth.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna let you correct the words I put in your mouth if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I don't believe that your life would be as rich without the suffering.
I agree.
You agree?
I don't even know if I would be here without the suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people want the good life, the best life, without going through anything. And if it was up to us, we would elect no suffering.
Absolutely.
We would elect that. We would check the box of no suffering.
Right.
Good life, no suffering.
Right.
However, sometimes the best things come through suffering. I know there's a scripture that even says this, that after we suffer a while, he makes us perfect.
Yes.
He establishes us, he settles and strengthens us. After you suffer a while.
Right.
We want it before we suffered a while.
Right.
We want the cake first.
Right.
That's what it seems like. That's what we want as a
Right.
people. And I noticed even Job. We quoted Job in the beginning, how that Job had to go through some stuff. He went through some losses. He went through some physical stuff. But after going through it all,
Yes.
God blessed him and recovered him.
Yes.
And his end was greater than his beginning.
Yes, sir.
You feel like God is making your end better than your
He
beginning.
really is. Even down to my marriage. Blessing me with the type of husband that I have.
See, now, if you just stopped at 15, you couldn't have got married.
Not at all.
God let you go beyond.
Yes, he did.
Don't you see?
I'm thankful too.
Yeah,
Yes.
meet Brother Paul,
Yes.
and y'all begin to work it out
Yes,
to right on to marriage.
Right on to marriage.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk to us.
Well, I'm just thankful for that because going back at that time, I probably couldn't see that being possible because of what I was going through. But again, because at the time, my mother remaining steadfast in her faith and things of that nature, I think that carried me until I could get a better understanding for myself. And God just began to show me, what he's able to do for me and to show me that. And I'm so appreciative to that, even down to the simple things that he's allowed me to have. It's a major blessing. And I don't want to take that for granted at all.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You finished school, didn't you?
I didn't finish college.
You didn't finish?
No, but that even showed me my creative outlet of things that I was able to do. So I was able to go on and be an editor for a magazine. Wow. I was able to go on and interview different people, and it's just opened the door to so many different avenues for me.
Yeah. So what was your goal? Were you designed to be a journalist? Or?
I wanted to be a journalist. Yes, I did. That was one of the So
look at you on the podcast. Look at you, just shining. You in your element.
Yeah, yes.
Teaching words and everything. Medical diagnosis. I mean, look at you.
Right, that's God.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so those were avenues that I actually genuinely enjoyed. And even those, he's opened the gateway for me to be able to walk through those things and meet different people, network with different people.
Yeah.
So
you're an entrepreneur too,
yes, sir, I am. Yes.
Don't you see?
Yes, sir.
Look at God.
Yes, sir.
When they said it wasn't possible, look at God.
Absolutely.
With God, all things are possible.
Yes, sir.
Marriage, business,
yes, sir.
Success. And sometimes I will even, young people sometimes think that they have to go this certain path. And if they don't go that certain path, then they failed. Yes. And the reality is God can take you to success through a different path.
I agree.
It don't have to be a straight line.
Right.
And you are a testimony of that.
Yes, sir.
You're a testimony of that. And I know. So here's the thing I want to say, that sometimes people put a lot of stock on their education. Like, I got to get my education, and like that's the thing. And while I don't discredit your education,
No.
I don't do that. And we shouldn't do that. Here's what I want to say. You need God more than you need an education.
I agree.
And like one scripture says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Then the things that the nations of the world seek after, they can be added to you.
Right.
They can be added to you. And I know people, just, you know, and so you're one of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But I know others who didn't have all of the education. You know, they had knowledge, but they didn't have all of the credentials, I'll put it like that, and got jobs over people with all of the credentials.
Yes.
You see where I'm coming from?
I do. Yes, sir.
So the thing that I see is that you need to train yourself, and you need some knowledge. You need to develop your mind.
Absolutely.
You definitely should do that.
Right.
But you need God more than you need anything else.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. Yes.
So who opened all these doors for you? I know it wasn't Paul.
No.
I know it wasn't Paul. He's sitting over there. I know Paul's a good man.
Yes, he
but
is.
I know Paul didn't open all them doors.
No,
man.
not all of them.
He might open the car door.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe the house door. But it was some doors that Paul can open for you.
I agree, yes.
Tell us a little bit.
Oh my goodness. So even with the magazine, I think at that time I was young and we just happened to be at a restaurant. There was a young lady who wanted to have her own. She actually was working on her own magazine, and we ended up talking. And they allowed me to write and meet different people, different civil rights activists and things of that nature, and able to actually interview them and speak with them and to edit during this time for that magazine. And she was actually even featured on Oprah at that young age. So just being a part of things like that, even when I got out of high school, like I said, in the college classes and able to excel even with the issues that I was having with my eyes, just able to excel in that aspect of my life, and then to get older and to network with different people on my job. One of the accomplishments that I had at the time, I was working for an insurance company, and there was an award called a Distinguished Performance Award. And the young lady that was mentoring me, she had got that award after working for 20 years. And I said, no, I want to get this award my first year. I had no experience, no knowledge about anything that I was doing. And I didn't even share it with anybody, but I was determined.
It was a desire of your heart.
It was a desire of my heart. And I just went to work with it. And I got that award within that year. And I was one of the few people to get it. So much so that they flew us out, where the people who won the award, the recipients, we all, had dinner and things of that nature, had a nice hotel stay and everything of that nature. And I was one of the few people to be able to say that I got this award my first year. A lot of them were 20, 15, 30 years. And that was also, again, a blessing from God, because those desires that I had, the desire to get married, the beautiful marriage that I have, that was a blessing from God. So it's so many other things, but
sounds like you ain't taking them for granted, though.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to.
That's wonderful. You know, God has graced you, blessed you with life.
Yes.
And he's blessed your health.
Yes, sir.
And he's blessed your soul. And he's blessed your spirit. And I thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Talking with us, sharing your life and your story and what God has done for you, and the relationship that your suffering has allowed you to build with God, and now the love you have toward him.
Yes, sir.
Because he first loved you.
Yes, sir.
And let me tell you, I'd say to our audience that God has done this for Sister Stafford. And God loves you just like he loves Sister Stafford. And he's no respecter of persons. You're going through some stuff, you're going through some things. Let me tell you, you can be an overcomer too. Through the grace of God, through prayer, through faith, and God is able.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. God bless you all.